Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, today on the Dungeon Dive, we will be taking a look at the Broken Cask Society from Derek A. Kamal with art by Claudia Canini. The Broken Cask Society is a follow-up to the Broken Cask. The Broken Cask is a game that we have taken a look at before, and this is a solitaire game all about being an innkeeper and having the best inn and having different kinds of events and things at the inn as heroes come and go and you serve drinks and you have to keep your staff happy and keep your inn run well. I really do enjoy the Broken Cask a lot. Longtime viewers of the Dungeon Dive will know that I love things about fantasy inns, and I often talk about wanting a big game all about running an inn and having an adventures all surrounding a fantasy inn. Well, in the Broken Cask Society, the follow-up to Broken Cask, you are no longer playing as an innkeeper. You are playing as one of the customers, and you are playing as a member of the Broken Cask Society, which is a society that goes out and hunts down the best inns to experience some of the best food and best drink and best company in the land while they are going across and going out and having adventures while they are doing that. Let's read a little bit about the Broken Cask Society. Tens upon tens of years ago, the world was polluted with the remains of half-baked distilleries and dive bars barely worthy of the name. Then came the Society. Venture across the wilds in search of the finest inns of the land in this GM-less tabletop game for 1 to 4 players. The Broken Cask Society is a tabletop game for 1 to 3 or more players, where you create your character either from scratch or using playbooks and trek through a fantasy world as a member of the Broken Cask Society. You will ford rivers, scale mountains, and blaze trails to the most famous and infamous inns, pubs, taverns, wineries, drinkeries, alehouses, and meaderies in the land. You will use random tables to find out what happens and create a wonderful, cozy story as you go. Broken Cask Society, like the Broken Cask, is a delightful little adventure game that creates a ton of memorable moments with a huge selection of random charts that you will be rolling on. I think the Broken Cask Society will appeal to people who want a little more sense of adventure, who maybe didn't like the kind of sim aspect of Broken Cask. The Broken Cask Society has a really nice session outline that keeps track of everything you need to do on a single session, and each session will follow this outline. First, you will prepare for what lies ahead. You will prepare for your journey. You will have your journey. You will set out on each journey is a certain number of days that it takes to get from your base of operations to the inn that you are traveling to. Then you arrive at the inn to find what kind of inn it is, what kind of specialty they have, what kind of things they have on the menu. And then you have a feast, then you rest, and that is the end of your session. The characters, there are a number of different characters, and they will come in these playbooks. And you can either use the pre-generated characters, such as I am playing the Pilgrim here, or you can create your own character. The characters are pretty simple. They will have a name. My character, here, the Pilgrim, you are a traveler of great experience. Her name is Jigsaw Jenny. People call her Jigsaw. She's a puzzle, I guess. She's a puzzling human. Her appearance, she is clean but worn clothing, and her personality trait is quaint. Her background trait is an adventure seeker. Inside the playbook, you will have your basic stats, which are body, mind, and heart. These will be added usually to a roll of a d6 to overcome different tests. You also have morale, gear, XP, and mirth. Morale is kind of like your hit points. It's your fortitude, it's your mental and physical hit points. When that goes down to 0, you will become exhausted either in body, mind, or heart. Your gear is represented by 3 pips there. I'm using these tokens to represent my gear. Anytime you need to use something that you might have on you, then you spend a point of gear. XP is a track. As bad things happen to you, you grow as a character. If you experience bad food or a bad drink or something bad on your adventure, you will mark off a point of XP. Whenever you mark off all 5 points of XP, you get to improve your character in some way. Mirth is a currency, and all characters start with 3 points of mirth. And mirth you can spend to do a basic move, such as, and all of these basic moves basically help you with overcoming the various challenges that the game presents you with. You can invoke some expertise, some consideration, you can become inspired, you can fast talk, or you can take action. Each of the pre-made characters also comes with a set of moves that you can do to help you along your journey. You always start off with one move, and then you get to pick one of the remaining moves. And one of the things you can do when you gain XP is you can check off your other moves. So the pilgrim here, one of her moves is out of doors, or you are too used to sleeping on the ground. Take a -1 anytime you rest at a prestigious inn. So the inns will be judged on prestige from 1 to 6, 1 being a dive bar, 6 being a very fancy place. And so as a pilgrim, I don't like being in places that are too fancy. I also chose to leave none to waste. Anytime an event tells me to take +1 morale, gear, or mirth, but I cannot restore either, I get to check a circle here. So I can kind of store an extra point of morale or gear or mirth to be used later when I would have to spend one. And then over on the other side of your playbook, you also have all of your advantages, inventory, and complications and conditions. These are all things that can happen to you while you are on an adventure, and it is very easy to keep track of the various things that happen to you. Finally, on the back here, we have a place where we can take notes. And these are going to be things that you find, things that you need to reference later, things that might trigger certain narrative events later. And this is where you will keep track of those. So it's a very simple character sheet that has a lot of a very simple background, simple stats, but also contains a lot of the rules and things you need in order to play the game. Along with Jigsaw Jenny, my pilgrim, I am also using the optional rule of taking along an intern. And so I have Fallen Taja, the banished, and she is a human, and she has a fear of being abandoned. She has a fear of abandonment because she was banished as a young child. She is my intern, and there is a chance that she can help me with any of my tests associated with body, mind, or heart. This is an optional rule that you can use if you are playing solo, because as a solo player, you only have one society agent, and you are limited to using one of your stats. And so, if you were playing with a couple other friends, they might have more body or more mind than you, so you can help each other out when it comes to taking your tests. But because I'm playing solo, I am bringing along an intern, and when I take a test, I can roll a d6, and if I roll a 4, 5, or 6, and I get to add +1 to any of my rolls because my intern is helping me out. Along with the Broken Cask Society book and all of the charts and all of the generators associated or included in this book, I am also using a few ubiquitous guides here, the Traveler's Guides to Inns and Taverns, Table Fables 2 and Table Fables 1, all from Madeline Hale, the great Madeline Hale, who creates these amazing books that you've seen many, many times on many, many channels. These books are perfect tools to be used along with the Broken Cask Society. I would say the Broken Cask Society is more of a journaling game. It is a very simple game, and it is a very cozy and charming game. So if you're looking for something that you can write a little story with, have a little adventure, if you like ale, if you like whiskey, if you like drinking, and like having good food and sitting around and talking with friends while you're enjoying good food and good drinks, then this is definitely a game for you. So let's talk a little bit about the adventure that Jigsaw Jenny and her intern Fallen Taja went on. Okay, so after a night of heavy drinking, Jigsaw and Fallen wake up with terrible hangovers, and they prepare to set out once again in the hopes of finding a famous traveling water wagon, a mobile micropub that moves around the land. So I created that saying that was kind of my overall goal in Jigsaw Jenny's career as an agent for the Broken Cask Society. She is trying to track down this mobile micropub called the Water Wagon. Before setting out on my first adventure trying to find an inn, I hit up the market before setting out. And at the market, I was able to buy a digestif that would, when I drank it, I would remove poison or sick condition. And that did come in handy because I did get poisoned along my journey. So I was really happy to have that in my backpack. Using Fable Tables 2, I believe, I rolled up my starting town. And my starting town is the town of Kings Point. It is a town with a population of 9,000. The quality of life for most people is decent in Kingsport. Has a representative government. Its prime export is spices, but I'm saying it's hops to kind of fit the theme of the Broken Cask Society. And the town, in the town center is a circle of ancient stones. Now, your starting town will be where you set off for each of your adventures. And in that starting town is your society house. This is kind of like your base of operations. This is the society house that you work for, and you are kind of putting together a travel log. You are putting together a review book of different inns. You are kind of like, I don't know, think of yourself as kind of a fantasy Anthony Bourdain or someone like that who would set out and have these culinary adventures. So my society house is actually called the Raggedy Nephew. It is wealthy and comfortable. It is kept dim with few windows. It has clean air with the fragrance of food and ale in the air. It's well warmed when it's cold outside. It is somewhat dubious and odd, with a lot of society members passing through. The locals of Kingsport often wonder if they are welcome at the Raggedy Nephew. They are, but few actually know this. And I think that's because the barkeep is quiet and professional. He seems unfriendly, but he is not. I rolled up most of that using the Traveler's Guide Inns and Tavern from Madeline Hale. At the end of the book here, we have a way to roll up a basic tavern with all of the things you might need to keep track of at that tavern. When you set out, you will roll up your initial departure event. So we decided to make time for breakfast on this morning to settle our upset stomachs. And we had a bowl of satisfying porridge. So today I decided that we were heading south towards the Buzzing Twig Inn. Most of everything else that you will learn about on this adventure was rolled up using the Broken Cask Society, and I simply followed the session outline here, rolling up on the tables that it asked me to roll up. So we're heading towards the Buzzing Twig Inn. This is nestled in a small, lively forest near a river. We decided to head towards the Buzzing Twig Inn because I heard that the barkeep there actually used to work on the Water Wagon, and they might have a clue of where I can discover that. And it is located near a wealthy region. Once you've determined where you are traveling to, then you want to roll up to see how many days of adventure it will take to get to your final destination. And this adventure, I had 3 days. So it was a 3-day trip. And each day you roll up on certain tables to find out what kind of events that you have to overcome. So on day 1, my travel was uneventful until we set up camp for the night. And at midnight, we were spooked and we awoke by these creepy sounds in the forest. And I had to test my heart 3. Follin said that the sounds reminded her of the creepy night birds of her hometown. And while they sound creepy, they were actually harmless. So she helped calm my nerves. So Follin and Jigsaw were able to calm each other's nerves and they were able to get back to sleep. Day 2, in the afternoon, we struggled to keep pace because of a strong headwind. A big windstorm was coming through. We pushed through, holding our cloaks tightly around our heads. We had to make a Mind 4, but I had advantage, a Mind 4 test. Anytime you have to test, it'll tell you to either test your mind, your body, or your heart. It'll give you a target number, and then you roll a d6 and you add your stat to that, and you have to meet or beat that target number. So we were able to find a small cave to take shelter in. Day 3, as we approached the inn, as we approached the Buzzing Twig Inn, At dusk, we arrived to find a patch of exotic river flowers with a mind for test. I thought perhaps they can be used to make some tea, so I wanted to pick one of the flowers. However, I failed that test, and as Jigsaw was about to pick a flower, the flower sprayed her with poisonous pollen. And that's when I decided to drink my digestif in order to cure myself of the poison affliction. Luckily, we bought the digestif. So finally, at Journey's End, we had a perfectly normal trip, not too bad, not too great. After you've made your trip, depending on how many adventures you have, you keep track of how many successes and how many failures. Then you subtract the failures from the successes, and you can add that bonus to your Journey's End roll. And I just had a perfectly normal trip, not too bad, not too great. So we finally arrived at the Buzzing Twig Inn, and I used the generators in the Broken Cask Society to roll up the different stats, the different attributes for the Buzzing Twig Inn. The proprietor was Bessarion Goldfarrow, a half-elf. The main staff was Adassa Wolftooth, an elf. It was a level 3 prestige, so it was well known, but not too fancy, but not too divey. It was just a plain old pub. The specialty was an entree with an exotic ingredient. It had clean plaster walls on the exterior with red wooden beams. Inside, it had dark oak with a second-story balcony. It had a friendly pet ocelot. However, Bessarion is actually allergic to the pet ocelot. It's on a riverland, and it was located in a small country village. So when I arrived at the Buzzing Twig Inn, there was a peddler outside who had set up a market and a little market stall. And I visited the peddler, and I was able to buy a map. And I said that this map might have a clue for me to help locate the water wagon. And the map is an item here that you can check off on your inventory and that you can spend to give advantage on an adventure table or adventure test. Advantage is very easy in this game. If you normally would roll 2d6, if you have advantage, you would roll and then you would take the highest. If you had disadvantage, it would be the opposite. You would roll and take the lowest. Then finally, it was time to feast. It was time to eat and drink and experience all the foods that the Buzzing Twig, or the food and drink that the Buzzing Twig Inn has to offer. And this is kind of like the main part of the game. So you have to experience a combination of 6 different kinds of food and or drink. So I chose to have 2 entrees, a soft drink, 2 ales, and some wine. And each of the food items that you experience will have a certain test that you have to take that is associated with one of your stats being body, mind, or heart. And that kind of represents how different the food is. Maybe it's really spicy and your character doesn't like spicy food. Maybe it has a challenging ingredient from a different country that your character isn't used to. And so it could maybe upset their stomach until they get used to it. Maybe the food is just bad and you get food poisoning. There are all kinds of different things. You do have to narrate why the certain food or the certain drink might be good or bad, or might have some detrimental effects, or you might absolutely love it. I got really lucky with all of my rolls, and I loved almost all of the food and drink that I ate. I had an iron fold ham with brie rolls, and that reminded me of home, and I absolutely loved it. For a soft drink, I had a very spicy chai, but I thought it was delicious. I had 2 different types of lager. I had a lager of 10 Downs, and I also had a white Sierra ale. And then I also had a Twin Hype Merlot, but the Twin Hype Merlot was very bad, and it gave me an upset stomach. And then I decided to end the night with a dragon scale charcuterie, and it was absolutely amazing. During my feast, I decided to sit at a small corner table away from most of the other patrons near a window overlooking the river so I could have a nice view while I was experiencing all of that food and all of that drink. So the Broken Cask Society, the book is very well organized. When you start off, it has all of your basic kind of introduction to the game, and then a brief history on the Broken Cask Society where you get to learn about some of the notable members. The society founder was Boniface, Master Boniface, a half-orc. And you also learn about the society lead there, or some of the different agents that are famous within the society. You learn a little bit about the structure of the society and your society house where all of your adventures start. And then finally, you go into here. This section here has all of your terms. So these are all of your game terms. This is very handy to have at the beginning of the book. It's very easy to reference in case you need to know one of the mechanisms. These are your core mechanisms right here. And then finally, you get into creating your character. And in creating your character, it talks about either making a character from scratch or using one of the included playbooks that you can download from the website. And those playbooks will have characters such as the campaigner, or perhaps the vintner, the keg master, the gourmand, and the character that I was using, of course, the pilgrim. Then you get a little bit of detail about each type of character here. So I was playing as the Pilgrim. The Broken Cask Society is about two things, journeying and eating. The Pilgrim is more focused on the former. Perhaps because of previous employment or a wayward disposition, the Pilgrim has traveled far and wide and knows how to survive in the wild. If the traveling aspect of the game is a little more appealing than the wining and dining, consider playing the Pilgrim. And that's why I chose the Pilgrim. I also happen to really like the drawing of the Pilgrim there. You also get rules on how to generate your own character if you don't want to use one of the provided playbooks. And you can generate your own stats, your own traits, your own moves, and come up with the things that will define your character. And then you get into how to use the random tables and the tests and the basic moves, how to spend those points of mirth to trigger the basic moves. Some things about solitaire play, and that is where it suggests to maybe use the intern, the optional rule at the end of the book for your intern. And then you'll get into here how to prepare your journey setting out. And these are all of the detailed things that you need to do that are outlined here on the the session outline. It's very easy to walk through each one of these pages for your first couple games in order to get acclimated and in order to learn the rules while you are playing. It is a very simple game. It's easy to learn, and you can easily learn while you are playing, even if you were sitting around the table with other people. It also has, as you are learning the game, it has a really good example of some players playing the game, and it gives you some pointers and tips on how to flesh out your world and flesh out your game. Then once you arrive at your inn, once you've had all of your adventures, then you get to the feasting portion of the game. And this is where you're going to put together the menu and eat all of your food and drink all of your wonderful drinks. And then finally, you will sleep, possibly level up, and then have the end of your session. The rest of the book is basically all of your tables here. And so you have your reference section. And this will have some rules clarifications. It'll have the playbooks that we just went over. It'll have your sheets that you can download from the website. It'll have your session outline that we've taken a look at. And then finally, all of your tables. And everything is available here at shorelessskies.com. And here we have all of our tables. So we have our preparation table, our inn creation table with various inn names that you can roll up, your departure table if you want to eat breakfast, how your journey table, how many days is your journey, what kind of terrain are you traveling through, when does your adventure in each day happen, what time of the day does it happen, and then depending on where you are traveling, whether it is through the plains, mountain, riverlands, forest, desert, or tundra, then you will roll up on your various event charts. And these are all random events. There's a 2d6 for each type of terrain. So if you were traveling through the plains, you would roll, and let's say you had a 2-day journey, you were traveling through the plains. Let's see, the first day you would have an adventure at dawn. So you wake up, and what happens when you wake up? You roll a 7. You come upon a patch of wild vegetables. How do you approach them? And this is a mind 4 test. My mind is 0, but I am traveling with my intern. So I would roll first to see if my intern knows anything about vegetables to help me out. A 2, no. So they do not know anything about vegetables because on a 4, 5, or 6, the intern helps you and you get to add a 1 to that roll. Well, I want to try to pick the vegetables to have something to snack on the way to my destination, but I don't know. Maybe these vegetables are bad and I don't know. So I'm going to roll a d6 and add my mind score, which is 0, and I am looking for a 4 or higher. I scored a 3. That is a miss. Oh no, not that one. Acting characters marks XP and becomes sick. So I picked the wrong vegetable, but because of that, I learned something about vegetables. So I would mark an XP, and then I would also mark off on the sick chart there. And then if I had that digestif still, I could drink that to use as some medicine. And you roll up an adventure every day of your journey. And then finally, you will roll up on your journey's end table and then on your arrival table as you arrive at the inn or the pub or your final destination. Then you have a chart all about the exterior and interior appearance of your inn, what kind of pets they might have, the prestige level, what their specialty is. You always have to try their specialty, but because the specialties are sometimes good, sometimes bad, you have a disadvantage on your test for when you actually do try the specialty. And then each of the inns will have an arrival event, something that is happening as you arrive to your destination. You might have some interference, or there might be an event that is happening in the inn, such as a 6. So this would be a Heart 4 test. The bar just broke a string. This is awkward. What do you do? Maybe you cheer on the bar, like go, it doesn't sound so bad with a broken string. Just continue playing, my good man. And I have a heart of +1. So I hit a 4. So I hit. The situation is amended and they teach you a new song. What is it? Take note. So when you take note, that's when you write a little narrative description of what happens, and that could trigger an advantage for you later on, depending on how you want to play out. So maybe the bard taught me the song of his people, and in the next town, I discover that that's where the bard is from, and I can recite some of the words, some of the lyrics from that song, and they treat me to a free drink or something like that. And then finally, you get all of your charts for your various courses. You have all of your various ales, such as the plain old pint or a dark stone dunkel or a white Sierra ale. And then you have all of your wines, such as the Sultan, Sultana, or the Stormy Cabernet. You have all of your various soft drinks, such as sparkling mugwort soda or boba tea. You have your aperitifs, barley bread and butter, or the plowman's lunch, or a vicious, I don't know what that word is, dark vision dainties. You have your entrees here, your sausages and mash, or your calf's brain aspic, your pear glazed bean steak, all kinds of different things to eat. And then you also have your dessert menu here. The Furrier's fine flan, the misty zephyr brownies, the orange sugar fig cake. And then if something bad happens, if you don't pass the test, if the food disagrees with your adventurer, then you have to roll up on the reaction table. And maybe it's just bad where you lose some morale, or you manage to stomach it and press on. After you've taken your feast, you will take a rest, and then you will roll up on your epilogue table. And then there are some other tables here that you can roll up. If you want to visit a market, then you might be able to roll up on this market table, maybe find some weapons or some rare items, or you might find a mount. And then here we have our settlement table, what kind of settlement we're in. And then we have some random character traits here where you can roll up some NPCs with a name, a title, their heritage. And so that's basically the game. You set out, you make up an inn that you want to visit, you have adventures on the way, you get to your inn, you have a feast, and then you rest, and you kind of just keep your adventure going. Maybe coming up with an overall story like I did, where I want to visit the Water Wagon, this very, very special mobile micro pub, or you could just play a one-off adventure. I think this would be a fun game to kind of pair with a whiskey tasting, invite some friends over, have some various beers, some various cured meats and breads and crackers and some whiskey and ales, and just sit around and have a little fun adventure while you enjoy some good food and company. I really do like Broken Cask Society. I am so happy that I backed it, and I was super happy that I actually just randomly stumbled upon the Broken Cask one day as I was looking through Amazon, as I do sometimes, to see if any new games came out that I was unaware of. And it was a very serendipitous discovery. These two games are s- two things that I really do enjoy having, or the fantasy of having my own inn, my own tavern and pub, and then also heading out and having fun fantasy pub crawls as I am exploring the land, having different adventures, and discovering new food and new drinks to try. So, all right, you guys, well, I hope you enjoyed this look at the Broken Cask Society, and we will talk to you later. Bye bye.